So once we got the new tires on, we discovered that the leaf springs on this side are hitting the tires, so that's not a good thing. And if we go down and look at the U-bolts and the shackles, you can see that the U-bolts are completely rusted through on pretty much both sides. This is Tyler's dad, Eric, with Duluth Junction Workshop. Today I'm going to look at removing the leaf springs so we can start to get them sanded down or sandblasted and painted and back in. So first off, we're going to grind those U-bolts off. We got both the bottom plates off. This one, the plate is somewhat intact, but still pretty rusty. This one, you can see the U-bolts are just about rusted through as well, so pretty tough shape. So next we're going to take this cotter pin out and try and drive this pin out here at the back shackle. Nope, she doesn't want to spin.
Looks like you're getting her.
I'm not getting, this cotter pin's not coming out. Okay, we got the one bolt out. Oh baby.
So what's left?
I gotta drill this cotter pin out to drive this shaft out of here.
And then that'll get this spring out,
yeah.
Spring pack. So that's the main spring pack that's coming up next. Flip it upside down.
Oh, jeez. Okay, let's give her a little torch here. I think she's just gonna spin off.
Good spin off or bad spin off?
Bad. So we're having trouble getting the cotter pins out of here. They're rusted in solid. They broke off on each end. Having a little trouble drilling them out, so can't drive the shaft out to get the springs out. So decided to take off the stops for the springs. And the bolts are pretty rusty, but a little bit of heat and they came right off with the impact wrench. And these are a little bit crusty, as you can see too. There's a bunch of junk in there. I think the design of these allowed stuff to build up in there and then just rust. But they'll probably clean up okay. And then we're gonna next grind off these rivets and grind off these rivets to get these shackles off so we can get everything apart. Then we'll be able to sandblast, paint everything, put them back on with bolts. All right, we're gonna attempt to grind one of these rivets off and then drive it out, see how that goes. So we're taking off the front and back shackle brackets that hold the springs here. They're held on by 6 rivets. We weren't able to get this cotter pin out to take the shaft out, so we had to take the brackets off. So we ended up grinding the heads off them, drilling through them, and then heating them up and taking a punch and pushing the rivets through. We found out that the frame was rusted through in back of the bracket as well, so we'll have to do some welding repair in there.
What's the stuff inside?
I think just dirt collected back there, maybe.
That's all loose, generally?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm sure it was dirt in there, and then that got wet and just probably didn't help with the rusting at all. So on the front one here, this one had 8 rivets on it, 4 on the bottom, 2 on each side. These are a little bit harder to get at, especially the bottom ones. So we've gotten all the rivets out except for this one right here, and we're just gonna put a little heat on her and punch her through.
Looks like you've already drilled it out.
I have drilled it out. You can see it's pushed back a little bit here because this bracket's pretty loose right now. They seem to come out a lot better when you heat them up. All right, so we're gonna drive this baby through.
Do the chickens assist you in this process?
The chickens always assist me when I'm working outside. So then you get a rivet like this that comes out. Whoop. So I did put some bolts in here so she wouldn't drop because this thing's a little bit heavy. Ooh. It's got some crusty stuff in there too. Mostly just dirt, I think, that keeps getting wet and then helps the bracket and frame to rust.
Would you say that they do or do not make them like they used to?
I don't know. I think this thing probably has a lot more over-design, maybe. Might be the word. So now we need to take this, try to get this cotter pin drilled out so we can get this shaft out. So to put the springs back in. That was our problem. We could not get that shaft out of there.
Are we considering buying new modern shackles if they might work?
I don't know. I suppose that's always an option.
Are we going to restore the frame before we put the springs back on and make sure it's all solid?
Yep. I think I'll have to weld some pieces on here and there. I'm going to get rid of the rust and paint her up a little bit. So we just got some spring parts here from Michigan Truck Spring. They're not a sponsor, but just thought I'd shout out to them because they were a big help. So we've been unable to get these pins out of the shackle brackets out of there. So did order some new ones that are the same size, and so now we're going to be able to hack those out of there, drill them out, and hopefully punch them out, and we'll have some new pins for those. It's going to be hard to get the springs back on without those. Also got some spring bolts. Each spring takes 2 of them. That will replace this one that's a little bit short on one end. So, we got some sleeves for the bolts that go through the springs. Those are completely rusted away, so that'll be good to have those. Not sure if these existing top plates will work. They really don't have a place to hold the springs, so I did get some new ones. The bottom plates, however, on back order, so I'll have to see if these work once we get the bottom plates. And then we got some springs, some U-bolts for the springs, I should say. So again, you know, these will sit on top of here, and then we're getting some bottom plates, and we'll be good to go. Getting springs cleaned up and repainted right now, so once those go back together, they can get thrown back on the truck.
Do you want to show us the springs?
Sure. We cleaned them up, ground the rust off. Now we're just putting a coat of primer and black paint on them, and then flip them over and do the other side. And then we'll get them reassembled.
That's just cheap enamel from Menards, right?
It's Rust-Oleum. Yep.
That'll look a little bit too nice for the truck, I think. Of course, once we get the springs on, I'm gonna look at, well, a bunch of other things, but this axle needs to come apart and get some new oil in there. And you've been using Rust Doctor, you said, in your testing or going to test things?
Yeah, I'm going to test 3 different kinds here that we have. The spray fix and then the rust remover from Rust-Oleum, and then we'll do Rust Doctor on each one of them and see how good it performs.
It's funny to look at how much taller that 600 is.
I know, I took a picture of both of them, and for the same body, it's just bizarre. Okay. Whoops.
Did you crack it?
Yeah. Looks like that might have been cracked for a while, huh?
Oh yeah, it's nice and rusty.
Today we're going to be doing some reinforcements to the frame to attach the shackle brackets and the bump stops. Hopefully we can then get the leaf springs back on. So as you can see where this back shackle bracket was, there's a maple leaf here. No, it's not a Canadian truck. That's just where some crud got built up behind the shackle bracket and rusted completely through the frame. So we have a 1/4 inch plate for the front shackle bracket and bump stop as well, and we're going to slide this one in. We're going to clamp them in place and then drill some pilot holes just to get them started, and then go down on the drill press and drill out the rest of the holes. It'll be a little bit easier to drill them on the drill press. All right, it's just a beautiful Friday in April. It was about 60 degrees today, so I decided to come out and work on the F600. So let's just look at what we did today. So we got some 1/4 inch plates, as you can see here, to help reinforce the frame. One at each shackle bracket, and then I installed the shackle brackets and the bump stops, and they're bolted all the way through. And then because the cross members on the frames are totally rotted out, we're adding some 1.5 inch angle here, bolted across the frame at front and back. And then we have some 1/8 inch plate that we're going to weld on here to keep them from racking. All right, today we're going to get some plates welded on to keep this thing from racking. So let's get to it. We're going to grind it a little bit first and then weld it. I haven't done much welding since junior high, so it's going to take some time for me to get proficient at it again.
Get a new toy?
The welder?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a new MIG and stick welder.
A big boy, MIG boy.
Yeah, 220 volts, so we could weld 1/4 inch stuff.
Pretty good for not welding for 40 years.
Yeah, it's getting the hang of it. Takes a while though. So we got the bottom springs here. We got a spacer that goes in there. We ended up getting new helper springs on the top because the other ones was broken. We got a new top plate here, and then the U-bolt's gonna go through, nest on the top plate, and then this is the bottom one that goes under the axle. Hopefully by next weekend we'll have some leaf spring action going. It's been going on way too long.
Way too long? It's taking too long?
Yep.
Believe me, everyone, I know the Will It Run video is very popular, and we're very excited to get it on the road, but we need springs on it first. So first things first, and we're trying as hard as we can to get that thing out and drive it for you.
Absolutely. Morning. Eric here with Duluth Junction Workshop. Today we're going to work on mouse a little bit, the 62 F600. We have the 1/4-inch plates bent and all drilled, and we have some galvanizing primer on the back as well as on the frame. And so right now we're going to bolt the brackets on so to hold them in place, so we can weld around the plates and get them all set. And then once we get those welded, we will take the brackets back off, clean everything up, paint everything, and then put the brackets back on as well as the springs. So these were originally all riveted on. Ground all the rivets off, and now we're going to use some fine thread grade 8 bolts. Alright, I'm glad I did that because you can see that those bolts suck that plate in a little bit more there, so I'm just going to hit that with a grinder. We got the plates welded in. Not the best weld in the world, but I think it'll do. So next is paint prep, and get this thing painted and get the springs back on. Getting excited about that. We're going to use this rust reformer from Rust-Oleum. I went to the store yesterday to get some rusty metal primer and found they had this. We have used Duplicolor Rust Fix before, and that works pretty good. I hope this works the same. So had a wire wheel like this on the angle grinder, and got most of the rust off, and then just hit it with this sanding disc on the angle grinder, and boy does this thing work great. And now we're gonna hit it with some of this rust reformer, see how it does. You gonna help today? All right, that should do it.
Howdy doody.
Howdy. Been working on getting the frame and springs ready, getting everything rust proofed, plates welded in, brackets put on, springs reassembled, and today we're going to install everything.
Was there a drum roll?
It's been about a month, and ready to get this done. So one step closer to seeing if the diff and the transmission works.
Once we get the springs on, it's gonna run and drive, right?
Well, we got a few other things to do. I think we got to throw a radiator in.
Maybe it should have a radiator and fuel system first. Never mind.
Oh yeah, I think the next thing maybe we'll look at the fuel tank and see if we can't get that fixed up. So
yeah.
Shall we?
Let's drop the springs in.
All right.
All right. It's like a This Old House episode. Is this thing like 70 pounds? Jesus Christ.
The helper spring's a little bit lighter.
By which you mean it's only like 30 pounds? You want to Loctite these things? Okay. Are these grade 8 washers?
So the box said the bolts were identical length, but evidently not.
Yeah, they'll run.
There you go.
I'll tighten yours up.
Yep.
So we have bump stops here. Where did you get these? What do they fit?
They're off a 65 Mustang, I think.
Okay. We just re-drilled the frame holes here. These ones here. And then the portion that sticks out goes toward the center of the car. These are ones you made yourself, right?
Yeah.
Sweet. Going pretty well for you?
All right. Been better. Hello.
Hello.
Maybe it doesn't matter.
Are you having difficulties?
Must be right. We just gotta move the frame in.
That's the old hole in the frame that my old Pops patched. And there's a patch panel in there. So she should be good as new strength-wise, huh?
Hope so.
I guess we'll figure out if it snaps in half later. So did you get it lined up?
Yep.
Okay, let's trip over the jack holding the whole truck up. That's a good idea. Let's just kind of safety that thing. Oh, there you go. So it just needed the frame to be raised up quite a bit. I should mention we made a decision to bolt the cross members in instead of welding them, even though welding them would be easier, because I want to be able to remove them in the future if I need to work on this thing in that way. We also are looking at extending the frame in the future, and if those need to change and at some point, we don't have to cut them off. It just blows my mind that this thing used to be 2 feet shorter. It's so cool to find a old picture of it.
I think if we go up north, when we go up for the Ojibwe, maybe we should stop at the Historical Society.
Of the county?
Yeah.
That'd be cool. You want that? Got that pin halfway in. Throw some anti-seize on it.
Those things were rusted in there like you would not believe.
I would believe it. Hey. She's on.
There.
Well, there you go. Popped in. That is a real close clearance on those tires. It makes me a little nervous. I think it'll self-center once we get both sides on.
All right, so what we learned on the driver's side putting the spring in was it was kind of difficult. So we figured out that if we put the front shackle bracket on first and then brought the spring in from the back end, tipped up the back end and slid it under, it was much easier to get it installed. So that's what we did. So we slipped it under, put the back bracket on, and then the two bump stops. Got everything torqued down. The back ones are torqued to, and front ones are torqued to 120 pounds. These aren't grade 8 bolts, so we didn't torque those as much. And then we torqued these down to 50. So we still have to torque these too. I think we forgot to do that.
What size did we use for these?
Those are 3/8.
3/8 normal.
Those are 7/16.
Mid-grade. These are
7/16. These are 3/8. These are 1/2 inch.
And the 1/2 inch are grade 8, and the 3/8 are mid-grade, and these look like grade 8 as well.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
And so these were all, had rivets on them from the factory. So they all had to be cut off, drilled out, and then we put bolts in just because we don't rivet.
Ain't dealing with that crap.
So, yeah, it's looking pretty nice. We'll clean her up once more, get one more coat of paint and everything.
This pin has a zerk on the end, so I'm going to see if it comes out to actually lubricate the chassis. Hey, look at that.
It works.
Yeah. Get a little fresh grease in there. Oh, look at that. It turns black to yellow.
She lined up.
Great. Like a glove.
She lined up. Is it in front? There you go.
Oh, she's thirsty. All right. Putting the other side in, we realized we didn't have the pin in here, so be careful. Make sure you have this pin in before you put this one in, or you're not getting this one in at all. Well, I'm sure glad my dad volunteered to do this job, because I really didn't want to.
It actually was a lot more work than I thought it was gonna be. You know, took everything off, took the springs apart, cleaned them up, put them back together, got all the brackets off, which were riveted on, and was a ton of work getting those off. That's probably the hardest thing, was getting all the rivets out of this thing.
That was like 2 weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah, because they were all just rusted in there, and a lot of grinding and beating and heating, and so got all those off, and then of course all the cross supports were shot. Had to make new ones for that, and we had some holes in the frame.
You had to relearn how to weld
That's
for
right.
this project.
Yeah. Had some holes in the frame, so we got some 1/4-inch plate to beef those up, and the last couple days here we just got everything back on, and everything fit and worked, and really happy.
So we'll go and paint the whole thing in the future, but right now it's all together, so we don't have to worry about it. I guess if you were giving someone advice on this, would the first piece of advice be retire first before you start?
You just make sure you have a lot of time.
Well, it wasn't all that expensive. I mean, one of the helper springs broke, so it had spent a couple $100 on helper springs, but overall it was just hardware and paint.
And some steel parts, a couple $100 in steel parts.
Okay.
For the cross members and plates.
So you could probably
get
do the
that.
same job at like $600.
Yeah, probably.
It's a good starting point, and we're planning on doing kind of this style work to the whole thing until it's kind of fully restored, and throw a bed on it to haul cars with. So.
And you noticed on the back we didn't do any rust cleaning, and on the front we didn't do any rust cleaning. It's not because we're debating on how much we need to extend it and why do that. If we're just gonna cut it off and put a new piece on.
And here's a little illustration of what I want to do with it right here. So now you know why it's kind of a big deal to get the stuff up to par. All right.
Next is gas tank prep.
Yeah. And if you like this video, click subscribe, and I've got a lot of stuff on other stuff, my Saab, V4 powered Saab, and going to be doing a lot more work on this thing. So thank you for watching. See you next time.
Bye.